Chapter 3. Swapping Treasures. Great Han Dynasty. Within a large hall in the palace, Gu Hai was not wearing a dragon robe, but rather a black robe and civilian clothes, leading Shangwen Trace and Gu Qin to receive Li Shenji and the others. Mr. Li, I've come from afar, so I'm sorry to welcome you. I don't know what Mr. Li has to say about this visit. Gu Hai smiled and looked towards Li Shenji. Gu Hai was seated at the main seat, with Gu Qin and Shangwen Scar on his left, Li Shenji on his right, and a group of subordinates standing behind him. Li Shenji stared at Gu Hai, and Gu Hai was also wary of Li Shenji. After all, although Li Haran was not killed by himself, but if this Li Shenji started to go crazy, he still needed to be careful. Ha ha ha, Servant Master Gu. Still really good tactics. Once the Royal Casino is out, the spirit stones of the Thousand Islands Sea will be constantly remitted to the Great Han Dynasty. You're trying to empty the Thousand Islands Sea of spirit stones. Li Shenji suddenly laughed. For Li Haran's death, it was a general lack of mention. O.E. Malise to kind, Casino Royale. There is no technical difficulty. Perhaps many followers will appear one after another in the future. Gu Hai shook his head and said, Follower, not necessarily. Only its shape, not its god. After all, it's still your one Casino Royale that's dominant. No. My group of bastard henchmen just sent 2,000 top-grade spirit stones to your casino. Li Shenji laughed. The group of subordinates behind him, however, had an ugly look on their faces and lowered their heads with a shameful look on their faces. Li has overstated it. My royal casino operates openly and fairly, and what I earn is just subsistence money. Not as good as Li, Gu Hai said with a smile. On the side, Li Shenji's smile froze. Can you pull it any further? That gold-swallowing divine beast, just making ends meet. Gu Hai saw that Li Shenji didn't talk about the main topic for a long time, so he wasn't in a hurry and patiently accompanied Li Shenji as he chatted. After chatting for a while, Li Shenji was a bit tasteless, took a deep breath, and started to step into the main topic. Ancient Helmsman, just a month ago, the Senate issued a decree for me to reorganize the Divine Mechanism Battalion. O.E. Congratulations, Camp Master Li. Gu Hai raised his eyebrows and solemnly said, I came here this time, not for any other reason, but the Divine Mechanism Order of my Divine Mechanism Battalion. Was it taken by you? Li Shenji frowned and said in a deep voice, Divine Opportunity Order. I did find one at Li Haran's corpse back then. Gu Hai nodded. It's good that you found it. Li Shenji laughed. However, I accidentally lost it on my way back. So if Camp Master Li wants it, he can look for it along the road leading to the old Peony Sect site here. Maybe it can still be found. Gu Hai opened his mouth. Li Shenji's face stiffened. Can we still chat properly? The group of subordinates behind him immediately rose up in anger. However, Gu Hai spread his hands and smiled. I'm really sorry. Letting Camp Leader Li run a trip for nothing. Camp Leader Li is the Divine Mechanism Battalion leader of the Great Jin Dynasty. And I'm the helmsman of the whole of First Class, counting. You and I are also colleagues, just to different departments. Camp Leader Li has something to do. The whole of First Class and the Divine Mechanism Battalion should be the same breath, helping each other out. This time, it's love that can't help. Gu Hai, don't give face. The subordinates behind Li Shenji immediately glared at Gu Hai. Unbridled, Li Shenji let out a rebuke. The crowd of subordinates changed their faces and quieted down, but still glared at Gu Hai. Gu Hai looked at the angry eyes of the crowd, but smiled slightly. Earlier he was still a bit wary of Li Shenji. But from Li Shenji's words just now, Gu Hai could already hear that Li Shenji wouldn't flip out. Otherwise he wouldn't have mentioned that he was the Divine Mechanism Battalion Master. Poor discipline. Gu Helmsman is laughing. Li Shenji laughed. There's nothing wrong with it. This subordinate of yours, he's also a man of nature and is able to understand. Gu Hai smiled faintly. Looking at Gu Hai's unenthusiastic expression, a group of subordinates became angry in their hearts. They had just been cheated out of their money by Gu Hai's casino and beaten up not long ago. And now they were being chastised by the camp master because of Gu Hai, a person of temperament. Your sister's temperament. Shenji order, can't find it. Li Shenji stared at Gu Hai and said, not necessarily. Camp Master Li can go look for it himself. Maybe he'll find it soon. Gu Hai smiled. Li Shenji stared at Gu Hai for a while. Although it was only a short chat, he found that this Gu Hai was even more difficult to deal with than he thought. Why didn't he mention Li Haoran's death? That was because Li Haoran's death involved the death of the master of the first grade hall. And although Princess Xiaoyi was killed by that Black Hand, it was under the false pretense of Li Haoran's hand. Therefore, this matter can only be left unsettled, otherwise the pursuit is bound to be incomparably troublesome. The ancient sea in front of me. Actually oil and salt, speech dripping with water. This time to see himself, but also changed clothes, to see himself in civilian clothes. Leaving aside the identity of the emperor of the Great Han Dynasty, to the water helmsman of the Hall of One Piece to communicate with himself. In this way, one had to be considerate of the One Piece Hall. Ha ha ha, what the ancient helmsman said is also right. However, I came all the way here. This place is the ancient helmsman's home turf. When the ancient helmsman gives an order, the world shakes, so I still need to trouble the ancient helmsman, just now. The ancient helmsman said that the One Piece Hall and the Divine Mechanism Battalion are in the same breath and help each other, naturally. I deeply agree with that. So I also request that the ancient helmsman be able to help me this time. Li Shenji laughed. That's natural. I'll immediately send someone forward to find out. Gu Hai nodded and agreed very readily. The subordinates behind Li Shenji looked satisfied, but Li Shenji's face stiffened. Could you be any more fake? It's clearly in your hands, and you're still talking in such a grandiose manner. Camp Master Li, I don't know if there are any other needs. If I can help, I'll do my best. How about it? Gu Hai smiled. It's like this. In order to be grateful to Servant Master Gu for helping me find the Divine Opportunity Order, I would like to use a heavy treasure to thank Servant Master Gu for his help. Li Shenji clenched his teeth and said, Oh, Camp Master Li is too polite, isn't he? Gu Hai laughed. Turning over his hand, Li Shenji took out a golden object, which was the Zhuanwu golden armor that came from the northern pirates not long ago. Unfortunately, Gu Hai's contact with the cultivation world was too short to see how good it was. Besides, he didn't believe that Li Shenji would give out a heavy treasure to himself. Oh, what is this? Gu Hai said curiously. Battalion Master, how can this Zhuanwu golden armor be given to him? A group of subordinates exclaimed. One must know that this was the Zhuanwu golden armor that took a lot of effort to obtain, and it was just given to Gu Hai so easily. Shut up. Li Shenji let out a cold shout, stopping the crowd of subordinates from shrieking. Zhuanwu golden armor. A trace of bewilderment flashed in Gu Hai's eyes. On the other hand, Shangwen Scar, who was sitting not far away, had his pupils abruptly shrunk. Your Majesty. Shangwen Trace suddenly got up and called out. The crowd looked at Shangwen Trace in confusion. Camp Master Li's a guest from afar, and my subordinate doesn't have much to do lately. So why don't we let my subordinate lead the people to look for the Divine Opportunity Order? Shangwen Trace solemnly said. Oh, Gu Hai froze slightly and looked at the Zhuanwu golden armor in Li Shenji's hand, because Gu Hai could tell that Shangwen Trace wanted it. Good, Camp Master Li. In that case, then I will definitely help Camp Master Li find it. Gu Hai smiled solemnly. Li Shenji looked at Shangwen Trace doubtfully and finally nodded. The Divine Opportunity Order was on Gu Hai's body, but it was not good for Gu Hai to take it out at this moment. After waiting for another 2 days, when Gu Hai brought Shangwen Trace and Gu Qin to see Li Shenji again, he took out the Divine Opportunity Order. Servant Master Gu has taken the trouble. Li Shenji received the divine opportunity order and smiled coldly. It should be. The Yipin Tang and Shenji battalion are in the same breath. There will be many opportunities to cooperate in the future. Gu Hai smiled as he received the Zhuan golden armor. Earlier, he didn't feel much, but just now, once he grabbed the Zhuan golden armor, Gu Hai felt the abnormality of this treasure. Because after casually shaking his hand, the surrounding sky actually produced a stream of clouds that seemed like it was about to rain. In that case, then I will take my leave. I will see you on the divine continent Earth in the coming days. Li Shenji laughed. Good. Gu Hai nodded. Hu. The flying boat suddenly appeared, and Li Shenji led a group of subordinates, stepping on the flying boat and shooting off into the distance. Shoo. In the blink of an eye, the flying boat had already reached the edge of the sky. Battalion Master, why did you give the Zhuan golden armor to Gu Hai? The divine chance order is clearly on him. He's blackmailing, a subordinate said indignantly. Li Shenji looked at the direction of the Great Han Dynasty with cold eyes and said, I know it's on him. But he bites his tongue and says it's not there. So what can you do? A. Zhuan golden armor. Oh, only the Zhuan clan can make use of it. I've been studying it for a while and found that instead of being able to refine a magic treasure, it is a scourge, Mukan. I can't imagine that, after 800 years of Zhuan Supreme's death, there are still so many Zhuan who still remember it for a long time, Li Shenji said in a cold voice. Battalion Master, you're leading the scourge to the east, borrowing Mu Chen to destroy the Great Han Dynasty. A subordinate next to him said with a glint in his eye. Li Shenji did not retort, but looked into the distance and said, all right, go to the imperial capital right away. The Sun has given me a 3-month limit. There must be something big for me to do. Yes, Great Han Dynasty, the land of the imperial palace. Gu Hai looked at the distant flying boat. His eyes turned ice cold. Father, that Li Shenji shouldn't have good intentions. This Zhuan golden armor. There must be something bad that we don't know about, Gu Qin said with a complicated expression. I know, Gu Hai nodded. Father knows. Then how? Gu Qin said blankly. I've studied the divine mechanism order. I can't study anything. Perhaps only Li Shenji knows how to use it. Today, even if he can't get the divine mechanism order, in the coming days, he will still come to seek it through Longwanqing. Sooner or later, it will return to him. It's not very useful to keep it, however. The main thing is that Shangwan Trace needs this Zhuan golden armor. Gu Hai handed the Zhuan golden armor to Shangwan Trace. Shangwan Trace looked at Gu Hai. A bitter smile flashed in his eyes as he nodded and said, Yes, thank you, Your Majesty. Gu Qin looked at Shangwan Trace suspiciously as he carefully took the Zhuan golden armor. Mr. Shangwan, this Zhuan golden armor, what is it for? Yao Zhengshan was eaten by me in soup. This is also for eating, Shangwan Trace explained. Gu Hai was also puzzled, but Gu Hai did not ask in detail. Outside the 9-5 island, boom. A monstrous tsunami rushed up to the sky. It propelled countless to the shore, and instantly, a large area of mountains and forests was submerged by the great water. However, it was good that there were no aborigines in this place. The great water receded, revealing Mu Chen's figure. Mu Chen stood on top of a mountain peak, looking coldly in the direction of the Great Han Palace in the distance. Stopped, Supreme, your shattered body. I, Mu Chen, swear to defend it to the death. Whoever dares to defile your shattered body, I will break them into pieces, Mu Chen said in a cold voice. Boom. Stepping forward, Mu Chen shot straight towards the Great Han Palace. Rumble. With Mu Chen's arrival, the 4 directions of the 9-5 islands were suddenly covered with dark clouds and lightning, as if a storm was approaching.